Welcome to my favorite stretches ever. So over the next 10 minutes, we are going to practice just some of my absolute favorite static stretching, and I'll have the opportunity to sort of explain to you what our goal is in the posture that we have chosen, why I love it so much, and how it might benefit you to throw into your routine or practice that you are doing at home. So let's get started. I do have 2 yoga blocks. I am going to use them a little bit. If you don't have yoga blocks, that's okay. I will sort of talk you through where to take your hands instead. You can also use 1 or 2 solid items that are about the same size. So like a textbook type size is maybe an option if you've got that at home, or even a box. Okay, so let's get started standing. And one of the first positions we're going to come into is quite simple. It's a straddle forward fold. And so I want you to take your feet nice and wide. Now, one of the things that's very beneficial in this straddle position is that we're able to connect with this inside line of our body. And it's a connection from the arches of our feet all the way up through the inside of our knees, up through our inner thighs, up through even our pelvic floor and into our low belly. And so that can get quite weak. Lots of people tend to let their legs collapse inwards or are weaker through their inner thighs. When we stand in a straddle position, we're able to really intentionally set our feet up. In other words, find all 4 corners of each foot. And I want you to imagine that there's like a string and needle, or a needle and thread, and that is going through the arch of your foot. And you're going to imagine that string or that thread coming all the way up through your inner knees, your inner thighs, the pelvic floor, and to your belly button. And so we want to lift our arches away from the ground. Okay, we're going to bring our hands to our hips, and then as we come forward, lead with your chest. So think of your body in 2 distinct parts. We have our upper body and we have our lower body. And it's this hip crease, or the pelvis, where we want to fold from. So you should feel like you're almost in an L shape. And then we're going to take our hands to the blocks. I always like to recommend people start by taking your hands to where you can have them flat. Once you feel as if you've got some slack in your elbows, as I currently do, you can progress by dropping down lower. And sometimes it takes a long time, like it can take years. Other times our body actually just needs a few seconds to settle in. So I'm pulling my knees back into my legs, lifting up through my sit bones, and trying to lift up through the arches of my feet. There's a lot going on. Chest is dropping forward. Okay, so I'm just going to keep progressing with these blocks, taking them down. I can take my hands right down to the mat. And then as this pose progresses as well, the goal is head towards the floor. And so you may be able over time to walk your feet wider. You may be able to plant your hands, and then you can start to bring yourself into a deeper fold by encouraging the sit bones to lift and the chest and the head to drop. It's still a lift, though. That's the funny thing, the interesting thing about a forward fold. Rather than thinking of reaching for the floor, think of reaching up through your legs. So your bum, your tailbone, your sit bones are reaching towards the ceiling. It's a deep stretch for our hamstrings and our adductors through our inner thighs. And my favorite way to come out of this is to bring our feet a little closer together. So heel toe your feet together. Bend your knees, just let your belly be on your thighs here, and just come up nice and gently. Great job. Okay, so from here, we're going to come down onto all 4s, so hands and knees. And I'm going to show you pigeon pose, which is universally one of the most popular yoga poses, I believe. Now, I find that it can be pretty inaccessible for some people because it does involve needing a happy ankle, a happy knee, and a happy hip. And some people don't have all those joints that are willing to cooperate. So I'm going to show you pigeon, and then I'm going to show you figure 4, which is a great alternative if being in this more weight-bearing position is too challenging for you. Okay, so from all 4s, we're going to just take our hands over towards the right edge, and you're going to step your left leg through. Okay, And bring your left foot all the way over to this right edge of the mat. Let your knee drop down. So there's a few things happening here. First of all, I do want to have my shin parallel with the front. It's going to be easier to bring your heel towards your pelvis. So it's not wrong. If you need to do that, go ahead and do that. Your knee has to cooperate here to have your leg straight across. And I want to keep my hips square. So don't sit into this left hip and lean towards the side. Instead, stay square on your pelvis, plant your hands, use your back foot, so your right foot, to move your leg away from yourself. Okay? A block or a pillow underneath of this left glute is a good option. Okay? My hips are nice and square, and then I'm going to come down onto my forearms, obviously totally optional to allow your body to sink into this. You're going to stay there for a few breaths, or you're going to roll to your back, and you're going to take your left ankle across the right knee and do figure 4 instead. So threading the needle and reaching through. This is a really good option, really good alternative. Same position through our hip and our leg, but we don't have that downward pressure of gravity and our body weight to hinder the sensation of the pose. Okay, so stay there maybe one more breath. And then to come out of this, we're going to plant our hands, curl your right toes under, and use your strength. So push away from the floor, step back to downward dog. So obviously that first one I showed you how to access from a kneeling position. This time let's try access the right leg from downward dog. But really be cautious here. So I see people all the time, and I'll demonstrate quickly. I see people reach their leg up and then throw their bodies forward. Not ideal. We want to be very intentional and gentle with our placement. So we're going to lift our right heel, and then we're going to bring our ankle across to this left edge. Ankle down, knee down. Notice how my hips are too far forward. This is where I'm still going to use my left leg and move back. Okay? Hips square. Don't sit to the right side. Keep your pelvis level. Place something underneath that right glute, and then come down. Your alternative here is to lay on your back. Take your right ankle across your left knee for that figure 4 stretch instead. Breathe. Take one more deep breath. Use your strength again. So come up onto your hands, curl your left toes under, step back to plank. Good job, guys. And then just down one knee at a time. From here, let's lay on our backs. Now, we don't need a block at all for this. I will show you once we get into the position. If you feel a lot of inner knee pressure in this next pose, then you could put like a pillow or a blanket or something between your legs that's soft, and that just takes a little bit of that space or of that weight, I guess, of your leg. But we don't need anything really solid. So for this one, we're going to take our feet nice and wide. Just be very intentional about the setup across your hips and your shoulders. And with my feet all the way to the edges of the mat, I'm going to tee my arms out from my shoulders. So let's go towards the right first. Both knees are going towards the right. And my goal is to keep my upper back nice and connected to the floor, but this left hip can lift as it needs to. Okay, so I'm on the outside edge of my right foot, the instep of my left foot. And from here, you're getting wonderful length for your rib cage, for your belly, all the way down into the front of your hip, all the way down into your thigh, your IT band. So my favorite thing to do here is bring, in this case, the right hand across the belly, just sort of to the bottom of my rib cage. And then I'm going to extend my left hand towards the back of the room. And then focus your breath right here underneath of this right hand. Imagine like you're blowing a balloon up into your belly, and see if you can relax your hips. Try not to protect yourself here at all. So in other words, glute muscles are relaxed. See if you can relax your adductors, so your inner thighs. Just let your body be totally suspended. Breathe into the left lung. Good job. Tee your arms out from your shoulders. And always when we're coming out of these twists, be mindful of your core. So pull your belly in. Support your low back and your hips by doing so. And then we're going to just lift our hips a little bit, readjust, make sure you feel nice and comfortable. Feet all the way to the edges of the mat. And then we're going to go to the left. And now because the hip joint is going in opposite directions, so in this case our right hip is moving inwards, our left hip is moving into an external rotation. Each side here might feel like two different bodies, and that's totally normal. Try your best to keep your back, or your upper back I should say, nice and connected. This right hip can lift as it needs to. This time we'll take the left hand across just to the bottom of our rib cage. Right arm's going to reach towards the back of the room. Breathe into your hand. Try to imagine like you're breathing only into the right lung. Relax your legs as best as you can manage. Good job, you guys. Let's take one more deep breath. And then bring our arms back out, belly to spine, draw your knees back to the center. Beautiful job. So just bring yourself up to seated, however you can. Those are just some of my favorite stretches. There's going to be a part 2 because of course I can't fit them all in one little session. So look for that video and have a fabulous day. Namaste.